the other part to the cochlea. Each one picks up on something, okay? So if we've got to deal with air and fluid plus sound, okay, this is actually a very busy area of the body. So when we look at the structure, now my cochlea, it's taking this spiral, looking like a snail, okay? Going to be very fluid filled, okay? And then look at this portion right here. Semicirques. I want you to note their position. We got one that looks like it's up, one that looks like it's down, one that looks like it's to the side. What types of movement do our bodies make? I can go up an elevator, I can come down an elevator, right? I can get up from the chair, I can sit down in the chair. I can get up from the bed, I can lay down in the bed. Some people twirl and tumble. I don't, okay? But some people do. So I've got one that lets go that way. And the goal, because they have very special cells in them, let us do that without falling over. My cochlea, that's going to be fluid filled, is going to encounter very special cells that are going to let that fluid determine information. So once again, I'm looking at structures that have very special cells picking up different information. The overall goal, give me sound and keep this organism upright. So if I take a peek at my cochlea, all right, which will help with hearing, all right, because it's known as the organ of hearing, okay? And if I take a cross section through one of those circles, through one of those snails, okay, I have fluid to the outside, fluid to the inside. This inside fluid, I find very special cells. So now, if I have this structure, and if sound waves come in, and if those sound waves begin to go to my tympanic membrane, my tympanic membrane is connected to some tiny bones, the three tiniest bones of the body. So if my air waves come in, hit this tympanic membrane, and make it begin to vibrate, that begins to make these three bones vibrate. If these three bones vibrate, they knock on a window. And if they knock on the window, it opens and it lets the information through. So now I get movement of, I'm in this oval window, and if I have my connection to a vestibule, and now my cochlea, I'm going to create movement in the fluid. And if I create movement in the fluid, I make these cells move. And because of the way that those cells are made, okay, and if they begin to move, they're connected to their axon, the fibers, to the cochlear nerve, and I now get some sound. So, it started with the vibrations to the tympanic membrane. Moving the fluid, moved the cells, which made sound happen. In the structures that are present, we're going to find that, like I said, we have different membranes that are present. We're going to find fluid that's present, okay? It deals with chemicals, mostly potassium, okay, for this area. And it is going to be converting those vibrations into a molecule that the nerves can pick up on. So that when that movement occurs, the little hair projections move, the potassium gets to rush in, and that creates an action potential, and I've now created sound, which is kind of cool. Those action potentials, this right here, is just giving you the steps that took place to create the action potential. The fact that it's potassium, that it's dependent upon, and when those cells move, we get sound. That's pretty much how it looks. Those little hair cells are in stair steps, so if we get the first one, it basically pulls the other ones with it. When they open, it's potassium this time that rushes in. We're used to knowing about sodium rushing in, but this time it's potassium. The equilibrium that's going to take place. Now, when we look at the vestibule, that first portion, okay, we're going to find them connected to the semicircs. There are some chambers that are present, but I'm going to show y'all a picture. This is going to be easier to talk about with the picture. But equilibrium, we have to deal with these types of equilibrium. Static, simply, what is the position of my head? Have you ever had something turn your head so quick you got dizzy? Okay, like some rides, that sort of thing. So that's static. Dynamic, linear and angular. Up, down, front, back, twirl, twirl, tumble. Okay, so we're going to find very special cells present that will help us pick up on this. And the best way is to show it with the pictures. Okay, so I'm in the area of my vestibule. Note, I've got two areas of specialized cells. Up, down, side to side. Is everybody following me? Okay, so if I've got those two, and they have special cells. But what else do you notice over the cells?
Membrane.
Got the membrane with some fluid, and then I've got otoliths, pieces of bone. They refer to them as rocks. So, you know, like growing up, I always wondered why people said, oh, you got rocks in your head. they were telling me that I did, because they refer to these as rocks, okay? But note that based on what happens, those otoliths in this membrane with the fluid, they're in connection with these little cilia, which are my nerve cells, which connect their axons, making up the nerve. So if I begin to put my head, turn, whatever the case might be, it's making those otoliths move. They affect those cells, which create an action potential, which allows us to know the position we're in. So it's the movement of those otoliths over those little cilia that bend and send that information along the nerve. For the semicircular ducts, now, as we're looking at these, okay, I noted their orientation up, down, to the side, okay. This time, they have a special cell. Once again, there's a membrane with fluid. As we twirl and tumble, it picks up that information and allows that person to do that and come back to the upright position. I'm convinced people who do like ice skating and so forth, they have very well developed ampulla with their cristas. I'm convinced that they do. The last one we're going to look at real quick, vision, sight. It's based on light. Basically, be sure to pay attention to those accessory organs in the textbook. And then what's going to happen is that information is going to make its way to the retina. The retina is going to be one of these tunics that are existing in the eye. So like everything we've talked about before, we have an inner, a middle, and an outer layer. They just call them tunics in the eye. So we're going to see the sclera is the tough outer one, which has our cornea. The middle tunic is our vascular layer, bringing that blood supply. Did you know that the retina, actually this blood supply to the eye, was another area of filtration for the body? I didn't know that. My eye doctor taught me that. I was like, what? And he goes, this is why a lot of people have issues like macular degeneration. It's a buildup of like fatty cholesterol type substances on the retina because it's a place of filtration for the blood. I just thought that was really interesting. That retina is the inner tunic, the one that's nervous tissue. So basically what will happen, based on the components of the eye, having the cornea, having the lens, as light passes through, any light that makes it directly through the lens goes straight back to the retina. But any other light coming in at a different angle, this light actually will get bent. And so the lens is going to play an important part on how those cells, once again, are going to be very specialized, and how that light, as it makes it to the different areas, how it's going to make the image. Because the information, that light that comes in, basically we're going to get to the optic nerve where it's going to turn it into a chemical, and that chemical will help produce the image. So as we make the way along that optic nerve to the, y'all help me out here. Which area of my brain back here? What?
Occipital lobe.
My occipital lobe, okay? And as we make the light bend and so forth, we're going to get the image. So image formation depends on how well this occurs. So if we don't have the proper lens, cornea formation,